Welcome to Gerstel's Making Labs Work podcast. It's a show about analytical chemistry, interesting instruments, and the challenging analytical problems that they solve.
Welcome to this new episode of the Making Labs Work podcast from Gerstel. And hello, Kurt. Are you on the other side of the ocean?
Yes, I am this time, Jan, instead of with you, but that's normal.
That's normal. That's quite normal.
That's
normally we have guests from outside, so not from Gerstel. So we have customers, we have developers, we have scientific people, we have everybody from outside. And today we have a very, very special guest. And please welcome Mr. Ralf Bremer, who is our COO, our Chief Operating Officer from the management team here. And later we will tell you why Ralf is here. Hello, Ralf. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, Jan. Hello, Kurt. Hello, all people, all listener. But we have a very long relationship over 40 years.
Yes, Ralf. And the reason why you are here is very, very special for us because you will leave our company. And can you tell us why?
Because I think the new generation should have the chance to grow. If I'm in the job still, I think everybody looks what I'm doing. And I think the next generation is ready to take over. And I would like to spend a lot of things outside of my daily work, sports, traveling, and so on. At this moment, I'm good in shape to do what I like to do. And I think it's time to go.
We've certainly earned it, Ralf. How many years total now?
I think it's more than 40 years because I already did the work during my study. I visit Gerstel and do some drawings in the afternoon.
That's a huge time, a long time.
Yeah, it was always together with Mr. Gerstel Senior. He was always there because he couldn't leave the factory. So that's also a reason. So he stays maybe a little bit too long. So, and I don't want to do the same thing.
So in other words, you will retire.
Yeah, it's true. Like a sport trophy. Do it when you are at the highest level.
There's a certain American quarterback that should be doing the same thing, but I'm not going to name names today.
Does it start with a B also, like Bremer, Ralf Bremer?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, he played also in Munich.
Yeah, that's true. He did.
So everybody knows now who's meant. Yes, and Ralf, of course, you are here because you have had so many experience with Gerstel. You have so many stories which happened through all the life of over 40 years with Gerstel. And the Making Labs Work podcast is about stories around the analytical chemistry. And I think today we are going to the outer circle of the around because you are not a customer who's doing daily work or developing analytical methods. But you have developed a lot of things. And I think one of the most important things for Gerstel was a cold injection system. And Ralf, can you tell me, have you been involved in that product in the beginning?
Yes, I did. So the cooled injection system was the first main development what I did together with Mr. Gerstel Senior. But in the past, the development always starts more or less after working time. So Mr. Gerstel gave me money to buy some cakes from the bakery, and Mr. Gerstel Senior cooks the coffee. And with the coffee and the cake, we have the best ideas. And then the first three places where Gerstel was located, always a bakery was close by.
So what was it, the decision to have the factory next to a bakery, or was it just happened?
It was just happened, but it was always a good sign for us.
Yeah, lucky situation.
With the cake, the best ideas comes up. So we developed the septum set together with the CIS It was a unique system. It's still today not copied, the septum head. So we have the only system that is still working without the septum in a chromatography. So our system has a lot of functions, but in the development, we only was looking for non-discrimination from the needle. But later on, the whole R&D teams from the world customers created a lot of applications like large volume or using as a trap. And the CIS is still the system what we use for all our systems.
So it's one of the main products. Yes, and I remember the times where I've been in sales, and the CIS was one of the main products, or the product which gives us the most possibility to go out with our products and with our solutions and with the customer needs. And later on, it goes further with the thermal desorption system, which goes directly on the CIS. So it was really a milestone for Gerstel. I remember that in the 2007, when I come to Gerstel, still then it was, really important. And what was the developing or the release date of the CIS?
This was in 83.
83.
Wow.
So there was one customer who purchased it in Germany. And later on, we also start US sales without a subsidiary. That was Eastern Coda Company asked us because they get notice about this CIS and want to have it without any subsidiary and also without no support. So they said, we need the system as soon as possible. So the word was out with a large volume and everybody wants to increase the sample size to get more information about the samples. And later on, we also have this starting with Hewlett-Packard, the contract based on this CIS in 86 already.
And you did say Hewlett-Packard, which really gives everyone an idea of how long this has been going on.
Yep. So it was hard for me in the beginning to say Agilent. And sometimes I also said today, HBPV.
But Ralf, that's the same for me. So I have worked since '92 for HP, and then they switched to Agilent, and I was in the middle of the company, and it was so hard to switch over. So it was still HP, and at this time, even the HP way, which Bill and Dave established in further times.
Yeah. And my wife even has HPGCs in her lab to this day. So yeah, they're still out there, still kicking along, as is the CIS for that matter.
Yeah. so
Agilent's PTV.
Yeah, I remember with the HP name and the numbers. So it is often, if you pronounce something different, you don't understand what the customer means. There was a customer who told me he has an HP 5890. And I said, I don't know. What model you have? Because they don't say 5890. So
It's an interesting way to get into the GC industry. I mean, you mentioned it earlier that you had been an apprentice under Mr. Gerstel before you came. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that always impressed me, I've been with the company only about 9 of all those years you've been. And the dedication to apprenticeship and the fact that all these people come in all the time, it's really impressive. And it says a lot about who we are. One thing though, I mean, the SIS, it's now SIS-4, wound up eventually, something we still sell. It's the heart of our thermal desorption system. It's what makes our TD unique, being forward flushed. But as I often tell customers, and they always think I'm joking, but I'm not. So for every one thing you might find on the Gerstel webpage, there were probably 3 things we built for somebody and just never told anyone. And I think I think ultimately where all of those bones are buried. And I'm hoping to hear some of that today too.
Yeah. So there's one nice story about a smoking machine. So it was an analyzer for cigarette smoke. It was a very complicated system with 2 GCMS system and a column switching system and a mechanical lungs. And everything was combined. And in the past, always, if we got such a big order, a special order, we have barbecue for all our employees. And then the employees also want to know why we get this nice barbecue. And then we did a presentation, start the system, somebody lights the cigarette, put it into the machine. Then we press on start. Instead of sucking the smoke, the system push out the cigarette several meters. And then everybody was a little bit afraid. And then I said, oh, our smoking machine is a non-smoker. And everybody was laughing. So it was only one plumbing wrong. So that was all. But it was really fun. And this was shipped to a customer in Japan. And they used it for several years.
Wow. Smoking machine.
Yeah,
Wow.
smoke analyzer. And the smoke machine was called the Lungs, was a smoke machine. And that was unbelievable. I didn't know that before. It was produced in Bremen. Because I asked customers from Japan, where can I purchase this smoke machine? And he told me in your country, in Bremen. So it was funny. But it was very close. A short distance compared to Tokyo.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea was to smoke on the cigarette and get all the smoke things trapped on something.
Yeah, it was trapped on kind of T-necks, but sometimes also only over empty tube because it's heavy components, and otherwise with absorption material you can't get it back. And what they also want to do is they want to know the first throw, what you suck is the first.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, okay, I only want to know what is at the end, short before the filter, and what is in the middle. So they could decide, I want to suck the first or 4 to 5, and all this was done with the wave switching and with a very big glass-coated tubings. And this glass tubings was very hard to bend without destroying the glass surface.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our development. So it was really unique, and we never sold it second time. But
I was going to say, I've never seen that on the webpage.
Even on the old webpage, it was not there.
but with such specials, we often open a long-term business relationship with the customer, also for other systems, also for our standard systems, because they always like that we fulfill outside of the standard program our products, so that we have solutions what they are thinking about, and no company in the world will do the job. And then we did it. Also today at Analytica, you have the same. If customers, then they tell them, if somebody would do it, then try Gerstel.
Yeah. That's an amazing story with that the smoking machine is a non-smoker. That's great. I love it. And it's more healthy to be a non-smoker than a smoker, I assume.
Yeah, I quit in 2002. It's one of the proudest moments of my life.
So, but on the other hand, it was also figured out that the passive smoke is often more non-healthy, like through a filter. What is burned on the cigarette on top, this dust was what you see, and also what the non-smoker smell in the room, because it doesn't go through the filter. The filter takes a lot of the heavy components, but the dust, everything is included. So that means and I was also often in a bar where the ice starts to hurt because it was so many dust in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also 100% clear that is not healthy. It's even worse than you suck through the filter.
Okay. Yeah. Can imagine. And in which time frame was the smoke analyzer development? So
that was in the beginning of the 90s.
Okay.
Wow. So 20 years ago.
Yeah,
30
20
years
years
ago.
old.
30 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was also maybe I mix it up. So I think it was in beginning of 2000.
Still, that's still 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah. We have also a nice development for the Max Planck Institute done. So together with Max Planck Institute, we built a very big preparative GC.
What is very big? So everybody knows the GC today knows that it's 60 centimeter broad and probably 60 centimeter wide and high. So how big was that when you say big?
So it was 1.50 meter high.
Okay.
And close to 2 meter was the length, and maybe 80 centimeters to the back. And at the rear there was an oven, and in this oven there was 2 meter columns with a 60 millimeter inside diameter, filled with packed adsorption material. So we have 3 columns. One was a buffer column, then the pre-column, and the main column.
Wow.
And always in between, we have switching devices, what you could decide what is transferred and what you want to get rid of. And the nice thing was at that time, I did the drawing for the front label, for the whole flow diagram. And at that time, the electronic was not so far that we use an LCD screen like nowadays. We drilled holes into my flow diagram and put some LEDs in what can flash green and red and yellow to see what's going on in the instrument.
So the user interface was simple, I would say. No, it was complex, but from the outputs, simple. In case of you have some LEDs, not on a screen where you can display everything.
Yeah, but you don't have the shut off of the computer. You don't have to use this Control Alt Delete. You always could see what is happening in the instrument.
So you said it was prep scale, which means you're putting a lot of mass in and you're trying to get enough mass back out to do something with, like more synthetic organic chemistry or something.
Yeah.
How were you collecting what came off those huge columns? I mean, what did you cryotrap that, or what did you do?
Yeah, with cryotraps. But there was a big size because at that time the NMR needs a lot of pure components to do the identification. So it was 100 up to 60 milliliter vessels, and they were filled up to 10 milliliter.
Wow.
And it was cooled down with liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
To get
that's
the
really cool.
temperature.
I don't think anybody sees prep scale GC much anymore. I think I've tried to find other ways to do that, but I know prep scale LC is still out there. But.
Yeah, but we also sell also today 1 or 2 systems still from the smaller size. These PFC, what we add to a standard GC like today, like 8890, and we start with the 5890 because the NMR developer reduced, or the sensitivity is much higher, so that we also can now work with 1 microliter or 2 microliters compared to the milliliter format in the past.
And that definitely is still on the webpage. I've seen it. So the PFC is definitely there. So
the big one was the pre-production or pre-version of the actual PFC. Is that right?
That's right. We only sold 10 systems.
From the big ones?
From the big one.
Okay.
And the first has to be delivered just on time because it has to be needed inside of the end year. There is always an issue here that the customer wants to have it because they need it to spend their budget in the correct year.
Yeah, same as today with all the customers. So
yeah. And then we didn't get any forward for that system. And then Mr. Gerstel Senior decided, then we do it by our own. And then he rent a truck. And then 4 people from us, Holger, son from Mr. Gerstel, me and the head of production, Werner Kientop. And we did the delivery by our own. It was a little bit risky because today, I think for the safety issues, what you have to do, it's not allowed anymore to do in that way. But we did it by us, carry it on the 24th and Christmas Eve to the customer. The customer was waiting. Then we did the installation, and the customer did the test, the checkout after Christmas, before New Year, and it was successful.
So it definitely the 24th of December.
Yeah. And then
Okay. Holy thing.
Yeah. And then Mr. Gerstel Senior want to invite us for a dinner, and we said no.
That's
We have
nice
to go
for
to our,
That's
we have to
really
go to
nice.
we have to go to our family, so they are still waiting of us. Yeah,
It was
so that
kind
was-
of well timed though. I mean, it's a nice Christmas story, and it is that time of season. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this was very fun. So, and nobody had any issue about that. So everything went well. So that was very good.
Delivery on the 24th. I think today it's not possible because all the customers or all companies have closed the day, or most of them, I think. I assume.
I'll just wait. One of these days, we'll start selling our TDs on Amazon. You'll be able to get them overnight. You know.
Oh yes, yes. As a last second Christmas present.
I'm just curious what everyone wants for Christmas.
But
I
maybe
do.
not. But maybe not a delivery with 700 kilograms.
That's true. That's a bit. Yeah, we don't have anything. Everything we have fits on top of a GC, so it can't be that heavy.
Great. Love it. I just come with numbers here, with years. In which years that was? I assume somewhere in the 80s?
In the 80s, yeah.
In the
It was
80s?
85.
85.
Wow. 85. I was 15 then.
Yeah, very similar. I can remember the machine because we have had it in the museum here, but I've never heard that you delivered that on 24th of December. That's completely new for us, or for me here at this point.
Another special development was a kind of perch and trap, what we developed for a huge customer who wants to monitor his wastewater before it is released into the River Rhine. And we only have time for 6 weeks to develop it. So normally today, I would guess it's more than 1 year with all the regulations, what you have to fulfill, all the documentations, and so on. But it was a development together with the customer because it was an urgent need, because they have invite the environmental minister from this country to show them how good they are. And normally you only do this perch and trap with a filled sample in the vial. But they want to have a continuously analyzer for the wastewater stream. And then develop a kind of perch and trap, and we called it Stripper. It strips the component, so it's a German name, the Stripper. The gas was purchased, goes through the water and enriched it. And then this looks like the lamp from Aladdin. That was a nickname. And it has also a brush.
So when you rub that, Aladdin comes out?
Yeah, it was like this a little bit because it looks so dynamic. Because the mass spec, what could you see? You only could see on the screen some goes up and down. But there you could see real the sample comes, the bubbles go through, then the enrichment was done on an adsorption tube. And then later on, it always was cleaned with a shower around the whole lamp. And this system was presented to the environmental minister, and they only looked to this stripper. So there was no chance to show them the screen with a nice spectrogram from the mass spec. That was really
so the
fun.
high tech was not so important because you can't see anything.
Yes, you can't see anything. But the water bubbling and this brush was always nice to see.
Yeah, but remember on the Analytica or on the big trade fair, the eye catchers are not the machines which doing high end MS whatever electronical things. So the eye catcher are, for example, the big twister bowls where something stirring or other things. So that's quite normal. So and I think the minister will not. I don't want to blame him, but I don't think that he understands mass spectrometry in deep.
Yeah, but the sim works also. It was not only show, so it gave also the results what they need.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I'm mass spec's always that way, though. It's not exactly exciting to watch. It's just a box that sits there with the light on or whatever. So it's more interesting, like Jan said, when you can see things moving there's one thing. There's one instrument we definitely sell that everyone look at that and relates to immediately, and that's the olfactory detection port, because we're smelling things for food quality out of the end of that.
Yep. It's also a tool what we develop, and in all different lengths. Sometimes 4 people could smell simultaneously in different rooms. Then you have to have 4 meter long transfer line, and the temperature must be equal on the beginning, the middle, and at the end. And they are sitting in different rooms. They couldn't see the chromatogram, and then they have to make their notes.
I saw one of those in Europe. I was visiting one of our customers. I think it was in the Netherlands, and saw like a three-way ODP. It's pretty impressive.
Yep. So they want to get a different, because the human detector is not calibrated. So it's it's per human different, and so they get if every 3 think it's the same, so then it's better confirmed than only one.
Yeah.
But we also have in Japan, there's also a 2-stage ODP for 2 persons. And then the customer is sometimes invited when they create a new aroma, so that they also can smell during development and give feedback if that is the right direction for development or not.
Yeah, I always thought that was funny. You need to do that. You can't, because the chemical name doesn't connect you to the human experience. So you have to have the ODP there. I mean, I spent hours on a Gerstel ODP back when I used to work for a national paper years ago. But what's funny is, we have customers that are worried about off odors, and they're like, well, if I smell that stuff, I'm being exposed to it, right? Isn't that poisonous? I'm like, well, if you can smell it in the open air, you're already exposed. It's funny. It's like, people don't realize that the taste of the taste of cinnamon is actually cinnamonic acid. Flavors are chemicals too. So
I remember one story from our seminars here where a customer give a talk, and at the end somebody asked also, isn't it dangerous to smell all the things directly from the ODP, and what about the human and human body and so on? And he comes from the university and said, so, yes, but we have enough students. And the whole audience was laughing. So that was also a great answer about that. But your answer is a serious one.
So I think also you could explain, a smell is often needed to give an alarm. If you have some gases, what you are transport, they have no smell. And you don't realize any leaks. So these gases get a flavor in addition. So if then there is a leak, you directly realize that, and you get not poisoned because you smell something.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it. Yeah. Cool stories about your career. Should I say career? Your own development here. You have developed so many things. Is there another stirring device, for example, which is developed here and you have your hands on? So because we are talking about moving things in the past.
Yeah, that's true. But the development is not done by us. The principal development is done by Pat Sandra and his group. It's a twister. So the stirbar sorptive extraction. And we develop out of this idea a product that can be produced over the time, now 20 years already, always in the same quality and in a reasonable price number. So that is what we did. And also we developed application. But the principal idea was from Pat Sandra and his team. And I can tell you a little bit about the story, how that worked. So they did some SPIMI tests, and they want to enrich the sample more. And they use a magnetic stirbar, but covered by Teflon, to get more on the SPIMI fiber. But the result showed them they get less than before. Mm-hmm. And then they were astonished, and then they looked into the detail, took out the magnetic stirbar, and put it into a solvent and release it back. And then they saw that on this magnetic stirbar, a lot of components were trapped. And then the idea comes, okay, if this magnetic stir already do this job, if we use a phase like a PDMS on a stir bar, that could do a good job. And then they start all the experiments. And then when they were successful in the beginning, they called us. And then we did more or less the design or the final design and the production step and the quality checkout. And Pat developed with his team in the beginning the whole applications to introduce it. And then we did a presentation at Analytica in 2000. And then we ran the room and gave a presentation, and the customer could bring in the sample. And then we stirred and showed the result to the customer and gave them the raw data that they can take home. And if the customer has no sample, then we said, in what kind of area you are working? And sometimes they said food, and they, okay, we go to the imbiss, and then they bought some ketchup or mayonnaise, and then we did the test on site. That was really fun. And then we thought about how can we show the principle very good at the booth. And then we had a lot of stir bars, colored liquids, and then it was stirring. And then I thought, what could we offer the customer? And ask for a German candy producer, Haribo. But when we want to have a specific form, it was too much. And then I looked into a shop, and then I saw the Haribo lakritz with sugar around
The
in
sticks,
different colors.
the sticks. Yeah.
And with sugar around in different colors. It was bigger than the Twister, but then we offer it to the customers as a candy. And then one customer asked me if these Twisters in this candy are the different phases of a Twister. So the red for these components and the yellow for the others. So that was the start. That was the first time that we were asked for a different phase, and still going on. A lot of customers ask us, can you produce another phase? We only have a second phase, but the PDMS is the most successful still.
Yeah. That's great, and I think that leads us to one of the next episodes. We don't know exactly when we bring that out, but I think we will have a special Twister episode because in the pipeline we have some guests. They are talking about the Twister, and probably we can invite you, Ralf, again to be part of this discussion or this talk, and then we have a Twister special episode on this podcast. Kurt, what do you think about? Is that a good way?
I love that idea. I mean, I can be one of those guests as a former user, because
you are not a guest; you are the host.
I know.
Remember that. You have to ask questions.
I used to use it for analyzing orange juice and milk for off flavors, for food migration testing. It was an amazing tool if you were looking for low level stuff, because it was not only was it effective at doing things, but you didn't have to use like methylene chloride extractions, and it just worked out really, really well. It was certainly for flavors and fragrances. It definitely. It's one of the things that ended up bringing me to Gerstel, because I was a user long before I got here as product manager. So, yeah, it's amazing stuff. It's changed a lot of people's professional lives and what it can do.
Yeah, and as sometimes in this world, it happens during an accident, because there were some components lost in the Teflon stir bar, and so the development starts. So that's great, because sometimes accidents are not as bad as they look like in the first view.
Yeah. But you have to identify that
yes,
it is an accident and make the right conclusions.
Of course. Yeah. That's a scientific approach about that.
Yeah. So that's always what Mr. Gerstel said. At the end, when the development is ready, everybody says, "Oh, it's clear. That is how it has to be." But the whole history about the development, nobody see how much work it is, because the final solution should be always as simple as possible. So that means nothing should be on the product what is not needed. And that's very important for the design.
Yep.
Yep. So a lot of stories you have. And when you think about all the things you have done at Gerstel, what are the two things what our listeners can learn from you? Because they can't learn from you next year because you're in your retirement time. And so we have to ask you today, what are the one or two things what a listener can learn from you, because you are not in the lab, but you have done other things for labs. So have you something in your mind?
Yeah. First of all, what I tell everybody is, if you're on a hurry, take your time. Then you are faster. So that means, because often if you try to fix it and very fast, you failed and failed and failed. So I think if you are really on a hurry, take your time. And then you are earlier ready. So that is my experience about development. Also, another thing is, if you do not find the solution, and it takes time and time, do something else or drive home. Sometimes it happens that I stay until 11 p.m. in the lab and don't find the solution. I was a little bit angry about that because I spent several hours. Then I go to my car, go on the street. Before I was arriving home, I know the solution. So that's also, you need a cut. Also, what is very important, to have somebody like I had in the past, Mr. Gerstel Senior, to discuss it. It must not be a person who do the same study. You can, if you are a mechanical guy, you can discuss some items with an electronic guy or with chemistry. It only means if you have to explain to somebody what you are doing, then there comes some specific question you didn't think about. And that helps a lot. So always do it, not everything alone. Always try to find somebody who you can talk to and get a feedback. Because I think that is really helpful for development.
And probably we can adapt that to the lab also. So not only
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's fine. I can remember, as you said, that the same inside a family discussion or inside a family thing, that you sometimes have to discuss that, and then the idea comes sometimes easy, sometimes not so easy, but it comes from the other side.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
thank you for that.
Yeah, and also if you hear something what goes wrong, then always I try, don't pick me the person and directly discuss it. Normally, what is a good thing, go at home, sleep, and the next day, and then talk the next day. Not directly when you hear about something, because then you forget to ask questions, because you have already the solution. You have already your mind. And if you do it on the next day in the morning, I get the experience, it's much better to talk about it.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to fix it on customer side or in where it happens, but don't directly talk to the people who what maybe are responsible for that fault. Take your time, get it home. The next day, it looks different.
That's a great advice, and thank you for that. Ralf,
I agree.
It's December the 21st where we record this episode, and you have only additional 2 days with Gerstel. So tell us, or tell the audience, please, what is going up in your life and what's your next adventure after these 2 days? Because I think these 2 days are not normal. And after these 2 days, what's your next adventure? What's going on? So what are you really doing then?
First of all, I will relax, of course, and then I will spend a vacation. One cruise is planned to the Caribbean Sea with my wife, because I want to do that 2 years ago on her 60th birthday, and then the Corona comes up and everything was destroyed. But we will do that next year. Also, I will do a bike tour, what I planned over the years from Passau to Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
So in 4 days or 5 days. Then I still in tennis active and also in a team, also in a competition, also in table tennis. Then I have a nice hobby that is to take pictures. Also, I will learn a little bit more about the Photoshop. So it's a lot of things what I will do so that I never get bored. Of course, maybe in some projects I will be back here at Gerstel, and I will visit the PitCon next year and also to visit Gerstel Inc. in Baltimore. I remember the start with the PitCon. There was a dimension fault between inch and millimeter. And when I saw our booth with the big columns 3 meter high instead of 30 centimeters diameter, there were 30 inches. And I couldn't see any instrument, only the columns. And then we have to dismantle 4 columns so that we have a nice view.
So you can it's okay. You can hide behind the columns and leave your instruments at home, or something like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
So this was unbelievable. And the color was also not a good match. So it was really pink, like the Pink Panther.
So
We've
that
gotten
was
a
the
lot
first
better at it since.
PitCon Gerstel was. So that you have learned that, and in the next PitCons it was okay then, or
Yeah, of course.
okay.
So and over the years, it's getting absolutely perfect. Bob Collins. So he's a very precise person. So now, not any dust is laying on the booth when I arrive.
Yep.
And everything is working.
Yes, he is. I remember Bob back when I used to be Bob's customer. I would agree with that.
So he's very, very precise, and also the details are okay.
So he didn't mix up inches and centimeters, and you gave up these organization of the PitCons to him. So that's
No, I was never 100% responsible for that. We only passed the drawings to my department, and then it was an accident. It happens not only to us. So the centimeter inch problem, it's a specific US problem. I would ask them, please move to centimeter and meter.
It did cost NASA a satellite to Mars, I think, at one point when they got centimeters and inches screwed up.
Yeah, there was something, but I can't remember that exactly. Yeah. So you're not the only one we are not the only one, or Gerstel was not the only one who has problems with centimeters and inches. So that's even great to hear. Yes. Ralf, when you are not in the company, because we have your number, we have your email address, are you reachable for the audience or for somebody else in the future? Or are you disappearing in the world of the analytical Gerstel equipment?
So what I will do is I will switch off the cell phone, and only the time to time I will open it. So I will be not available like this, click, but time to time I will look if somebody wants to have some information from me. And then, of course, I'm willing to do that because this whole company was developed also by me, the growing and so on. And I want that this is always in the future the same. And I think Gerstel will grow in the future. We have now a very good established structure, nice persons with a good knowledge, and I transfer the responsibility to the next level. And I think they will do the job as good as I did. And what you never should do, compare it to your decisions. Only the result is important.
Yeah. So that leads me to my last words on this podcast here before Kurt can have his last words, and then we switch over to Ralf. Ralf, thank you for coming to this podcast episode. It was a very special one, even for me. And thanks for leading our company for so many years. And I can say I will miss that person that we can ask any question to any one of our products and has every time an answer. So at this point, thank you very much for all the time we have had together. And after Kurt finished his sentence, we will give you the time to say goodbye to everybody in the world who listened to this podcast. Thank you, Ralf. It was a pleasure for me to work with you together in the last years. Thank you.
And I'll be uncharacteristically short. It's been a pleasure working for you over these last 9 years, going on 10. And you've always been an inspiration. It's the depth of knowledge. It's what kills me is you know as much about TD as I do, and everything else. So I really, it's always a pleasure. I always learn talking to you, and it's not over with. I know where you live. I can find you.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, it's only a few words. I want to say goodbye to all customers and also all employees of Gerstel, and also the partners in universities or as a company. It was a very long relationship of trust, and I think it should be transferred to the new generation. And what turns also out was some customers and also partners turns into friends, and I will meet them also after my retirement. I'm also available if Gerstel needs me, but of course also my wife needs me, and we'll see what the time schedule should be. I'm never be retired, so it's an experiment for me. So I hope everything happened like I want to do. So goodbye to everybody.